Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Sigmascape version 3.0, also known as 07N. This is the third new raid instance made available by patch 4.2 in Final Fantasy XIV Rise of a New Sun. You know, a lot of these intro puns go through a heavy screening process, but this time I just couldn't get any to load. My name is MAGITEK and I'll be your raid guide. The first thing to note is the screens behind the boss. You'll need to get used to looking at these throughout the encounter as they will display what program the boss is loading. This can help you predict the incoming mechanics, allowing you to pre-position for each attack as necessary. Second, the outer area has a barrier around it that deals damage and applies paralysis on anyone standing on it. You'll have to be careful throughout the encounter not to be knocked into this. MAGITEK Ray will cast towards a random player. Move out of the way to avoid this. Arm and Hammer is a tank buster on the primary target. Be ready with cooldowns and heals. Eventually, the boss will cast Load. Looking at the screen will show you which program he's loading and allow you to prepare for the incoming mechanics. The possible programs to load are ULTROS, DADALUMA, Air Force, and BIBLIOTAPH. Let's look at the mechanics of each one first. Loading ULTROS program will cause a number of large AoE circles to appear under each player. You can stack to bait these to help you dodge them easily. Tentacle Simulation will spawn 4 tentacles under random players that will then cast Wallop. This does massive damage and should be avoided as necessary. Eventually, ULTROS will spawn and should be picked up by the off-tank while the rest of the group focuses him down. The boss will fly up into the air and use chain cannon on the ground under a random player. Make sure you move out of this area or you will probably die. Immediately after, he'll cast main cannon in the same spot, dealing proximity-based damage. Move as far away as possible to reduce damage. Loading DADALUMA will begin with a knockback from the boss. Players can position themselves with their backs to a corner to ensure they don't get punted into the wall and paralyzed. Next, 8 chakra burst circles will spawn in a set pattern around the room. Have a player stand in each one to avoid extra damage and debuffs. Eventually, DADALUMA will spawn and should be picked up by the off-tank. Avoid his large aura cannon attack while you burn him down. Loading Air Force begins with a point-blank AoE attack around the boss. All players will need to move out of melee range to avoid this. Next, Missile Simulation will spawn a number of missiles on each side that will slowly move across the platform. Dodge these to avoid high damage and debuffs. Bomb Deployment will spawn 2 bombs around the center of the platform with 2 coils. One of the coils will grow brighter than the other. To defuse this bomb before it explodes, have a player stand in the glowing coil. Eventually, an Air Force ad will spawn. The Air Force ad also has a large AoE attack that should be avoided. Loading BIBLIOTAPH will spawn a number of demon summoning circles around the room that require 3 people in them to lock. If the circles are not locked in time, you'll summon extra ads. Eventually, BIBLIOTAPH will spawn and should be picked up by the off-tank. Avoid his massive AoE as well while you burn him down. While the boss cycles through all of these programs, healers will also need to watch out for Diffractive Laser, a massive raid-wide AoE attack, and this prey marker on a DPS player that will deal damage and apply a fire debuff. As the encounter continues, the boss will continuously load these programs, and you'll have to deal with each mechanic in turn until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into the Sigmascape version 4.0. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.